Hello. Welcome back to another edition of Road Talk with Cade. Today in my life is July 4th, 2025. The month of June flew by like the blink of an eye. When you sleep in a different bed every night, you quickly lose track of time. Some days I don't even think actually happened. Life is moving really fast, so that's why today I want to talk about my philosophical outlook on life. In the first week of June, I started the book Of the Nature of Things, which was written by Lucretius somewhere around the reign of Julius Caesar, which means I'm reading a poem that was written over 2,000 years ago, that was translated from Latin to English a long time ago. Being a 300-page long poem makes the book hard to grasp at first sight. The more I have read through the book, the easier the writing style has been to process. A major part of this book revolves around Epicurean philosophy. It actually is the oldest full book of any sort to engage in Epicureanism. To explain this type of philosophy, it advocates for a life of tranquility achieved through moderation, a goal of finding a state of freedom from mental disturbance, named after the Greek philosopher Epicurus, the founder of this way of thinking. He believed in deriving pleasure from understanding the natural world and limiting one's desires. Very similar to the way I try to look at the world through my own eyes. It's funny how the world brought me to this book that I identify so closely with, even though I've never heard of it before I picked it up off the shelf. Since I started reading this old book, I've been digging into my own mind, about my own personal philosophy for how I look at the world. Now I by no means am smart enough to be a philosopher, nor do I think of myself as one, but I do enjoy philosophy, so why not use my own lens to explain myself? In order for you to understand who I am, or why I think the way I do, we first have to travel far back into the past. Into my past. The only way I can share my way of thinking is by giving you the context of how we got inside this bone shell I call a skull. From the time I was born until the age of 10, my life was perfect. I lived the greatest childhood known to man. I woke up every morning to breakfast made. I had a stay-at-home mom that catered to my every need. She would fix every minor inconvenience one could think of, coaching me in sports, helping me with my homework. If it was possible for her to do, she did it, providing for us an amazing environment to grow up in, with complete freedom outside the house, where my brothers and I could have airsoft wars, build our own private golf course using the field, and get lost in the woods, golf carts, four-wheelers, and electric scooters to race around on in the yard. Growing up in the country allowed for me to be the last generation, which grew up outside, before screens. We still had screens, obviously, but not at all how the world works now. We were pushed to go outside and keep ourselves busy. From 10 to 15, life changed rapidly. Now my mother was still around and did everything in her power to keep that life steady while battling cancer, which is still to this day the most impressive thing I've ever seen a person do. She was truly a saint that I never deserved. That age range is also a time in your life where you're starting to figure it yourself out for the second time. The first time being when you become conscious around 5, but still just a blob. That second time as you near graduating 8th grade and transition into becoming a high schooler, which for me was a hard experience. Going from my small world of 18 classmates up to the mid-40s was a drastic change in pace, as well as a whole new world of people that are older and cooler than I was. As a shy kid who struggled with self-confidence, this was a scary time in life. I still remember the night I had a nervous breakdown before 8th grade graduation because I was scared of the unknown in front of me. Then just a short year later, I was sitting inside the same room, crying with my family, as our mother, the one who comforted me that year before, was gone forever, taking with her the rock that had kept my life balanced for the entirety of my existence up to that point. There was no more shoulder to cry on, no person who knew me better than I knew myself to make sure I stayed calm. From that point forward, I had to run the trials and tribulations of life on my own to find out who I was to become. At the age of 15, I went from the lifestyle of having a helicopter parent, not necessarily that extreme, but she was always right around the corner, going from that style of parenting to my dad's method, which was drastically different. A hard switch from extremely structured family to basically just being a latchkey kid. My dad traveled for a living and still does to this day, so he wasn't home every night or around like my mother was, even in those following years until I left for college. As my dad was off providing for us, I had to take over responsibilities that were pretty large for a 16 to 18-year-old kid, all while I was trying to fit into high school, where I had to try my best to keep a social life afloat as well. Never having the proper time to grieve the loss of my mother, while trying to find out who I was at the same time. One day I am in this friend group kinda, the next day I'm in that friend group kinda, but always kind of out on my own little island because my experiences made me different. Not an outcast by any means, more just an irrational child lost in the world because the power structure that kept him steady was gone. I was always angry, always grumpy, and always a wild card of emotion depending on the day. I don't look back fondly on those years of my life for many reasons. But hey, I guess that's what you call growth, right? I had that same mental breakdown before going off to college at the age of 18, where my whole world would change again. I thought my world was the one changing, but it was actually the entire world. The University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire was where I thought I was going to find new friends, new experiences, and lastly, myself. Ripped away from me by COVID after barely having time to settle in, stunting or rather delaying that experience I was longing for, as I again fumbled between groups of friends, trapped in that mindset of who I used to be, without the skills to better myself. What my life felt like from 15 to 22 was for every step I took up, I found myself 2 steps deeper into the hole that was my own mind. Then finally I graduated college, with zero skills or knowledge of what I just paid 56 grand for. What I did get was the chance to start again, to go out into the bigger stage of life, and find who I wanted to be for the 4th time, while still trying to find myself for the first time, where I stumbled even farther down the steps. No, literally, I fell face first down them and broke my arm, which coincidentally enough is where I found myself. I didn't find out who I wanted to be on those steps, but rather I found out who I was. I learned through that experience the fact that I didn't like who I was or where my life was going. Then a couple short months later, I found myself in Asheville, North Carolina, hiking through the mountains as the anger from my childhood dissipated. I was no longer mad about the shortcomings of my life up to that point. I was happy that I got a day in front of me, instead of dwelling on what was behind. The stress I was putting on myself to fit in stopped mattering. When I decided I don't want to fit in, I wanted to be me. I wanted to be Cade. I found who I was here, and more importantly, who I wanted to become. Which gets us to today. Where am I? I am sitting in my office chair, at my desk, in my 2-bedroom apartment, where outside sits my 2025 Volkswagen, that earlier tonight I took around the mountain so I could take a hike to flesh out this thought process. I, as a man, at 24, have fully been able to provide for myself, as well as start being able to take steps up the social ladder as I stack success. I like to think of myself as a successful man at the age of 24. From where this journey started to where I am today, I feel like I have accomplished many things for myself, both mentally and physically. I don't mean to hop on my soapbox and brag about this or that. The list above are indicators that the work I've been putting into myself is paying off. Whether it is working on me, mentally or physically, seeing the world come together around me tells me I'm on the right path. There's one more aspect about my current stage in life that is important to mention here, that being a man's worth. Today at 24 years old, I'm at the lowest ladder I'll be at when it comes to my value on this planet. There are a lot of different ways a man's worth can be broken down, one being his character, standing with integrity, honesty, and kindness when it comes to my contributions to society. Another is the old pocketbook. As shallow as it sounds, the dollar does control all. As men advance in their career, they tend to make more money and be in better financial situations. No matter which way you want to dice the onion, if I'm given time and opportunity, those experiences will provide me with more value as I age. The concept of a man's worth is very important in my way of thinking. So to tie everything together now, using my past life experience, current life situation, and understanding my future value, here's my philosophical outlook on life at the age of 24. Which is very fitting that today is also the 4th of July. As long as I stay true to myself, I am free inside of my own domain. Completely free. I have the freedom to go out into the world, chase my dreams, and have no fear of failure. Every day gives me time. Every opportunity gives me experience. Knowing those two things makes me free to enjoy life to the fullest. For example, when it comes to my social life, I am friendly and cordial to everyone I meet. I recently picked up a habit of telling people as I leave to have a blessed day. Some people have asked me why I use that word specifically. Well, for me, I use it because I am religious, and I hope God blesses your life. If you aren't as religious as me, or simply find an interesting way to say goodbye, however you take it, I hope your life is blessed. I hope you are given everything you dream about, and I mean that sincerely. Using that statement on a regular basis has had an improvement on my mental health, as it spreads positivity in a thoughtful and caring manner. I have hobbies and interests that I'm passionate about. I mentioned earlier that I was a shy kid. Nowadays, I can talk to anyone, anywhere, about anything. I'm willing to put myself out there with no shame of who I am or what I like. Nobody's opinion of who I am can hurt me because I like who I am, something I wouldn't have been able to say about myself at most points throughout my life. The fact that I like who I am opens up so many avenues for my life to go in. I can be 100% honest with everyone around me. I have zero shame in my feelings and emotions because they are part of me, an extension of my being beyond the physical realm. I can walk the earth as myself with no shame or fear of judgment. For my human experience is something I will not squander, allowing me to wear my heart on my sleeve to my truest self. If I continue the regular daily task of investing in myself, I know that one day everything I'm working for will pay off. Staying consistent and honest with myself above all else. Zero fear of failure. Zero fear of embarrassment. Completely free to say, do, and act as I see fit. To love hard and live long. I am comfortable inside my own skin. I have positioned myself to continue to grow with age and experience. I can wait until the time is right. I can pick my spots, play my hand, and shoot my shot. There is nothing in front of me of which I cannot conquer. I am free to chase my dreams because I have nothing to lose. With all that randomness being said, thank you for listening. I love you.